Let's go live here. Let's just have a little fun with this.
Dreams, goals, expectations. We all have them. Some realistic, some not so realistic. But to be honest, most of our dreams, goals and expectations haven't manifested in our lives. Yet. You see, most of us expected to be in better positions than we are today. Better car, better job, better all-round lifestyle. You can achieve all those things. But you have to stop living up to others' expectations. Stop trying to live other people's dreams. Stop trying to achieve other people.
I gotta squint so I can see. I gotta get through the right line. When you get old, you'll see. You'll see. Make fun of the old man.
That's why I try to do away from the microphone.
That's all right. Hey, that's what it is. Welcome in. Hey, everybody. This is 21.6 The Net. Thanks for getting caught in the net with us this morning. Of course, this is Bridging Civil Tension.
Yes, sir.
And the guy over here is Phil Wallace, entrepreneur extraordinaire. Lelos. Am I saying that? Are you a Lalos or are you a Lelos? Lelos. I like that too. Live a life of significance. Clothing line, which is just fantastic. Yeah. So how do they get in touch with you for that?
Lelos Clothing on Facebook. Lelos Clothing on Instagram as well. We utilize the profit for that to help out with our youth mentorship program and do things for the kids. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And, of course, with 21.6 The Net, we are going for 2016 people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you are caught in the net with us, just relax, subscribe, ring the bell, have some fun with that. It was absolutely great. Today on Bridging Civil Tension, we're going to talk about lung division. You like that? You like that, right? And here's what I'm talking about. A lot to talk about. And let's take the easy elephant, right? The inauguration. Lady Gaga killed it. I mean, it looked like she was standing up through the sunroof of a Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, that was a big old dress. But she tore it up. I mean, that was a really good rendition of the national anthem. J-Lo did a fantastic job. Looked like $1 million. Garth got in there, did a great job. He
pops up randomly.
He does. It's like Garth Brooks to sing "Amazing Grace." I was like, no kidding, Garth. He walks out.
5 years off, and then you just show up at the inauguration.
Hey, Joe, how are you? And he was a cool cowboy. Yeah. He had on his Wrangler blue jeans, and then a black shirt, black top, his cowboy boots, and a black hat. That's typical Garth. And he comes trotting down the stairs. And he looks over at Joe and just kind of does the old cowboy tip of the hat thing. I was like, dang, nice. Yeah. Style. So it was good. It was fun. And hey, no riots in Washington, D.C.
Which I was definitely
I think we all were
surprised, but happy to see that we can get through this peacefully as adults.
I think we all were.
We don't need supervision for an inauguration. We can let that understand that it's sacred and respectful and do things the right way.
Yeah, I mean, people ask, and again, I will say I didn't vote for Biden, right? But I watch that because that's history. That's cool to me. Yeah. I will watch the last show of. Hey, Tom, how are you, man? Glad to have you with us, Lisa. She sang amazing, but looked like she was a Hunger Games tryout, right? She did.
No.
Ted is like, absolutely great music all the way around. Yep. Glad to have you guys with us this morning, but absolutely fantastic, right? And I will watch the last show of a series that I've never watched because that's history.
Right.
I will watch the last game of a soccer championship because that's history. I don't even watch soccer.
I watch it because I'm probably hanging out with Sal, and Sal's probably losing his mind.
Right. So I'm that guy. I'm not a Cubs fan. It's easy, folks. I'm not a Cubs fan, but I did watch the last game of their World Series.
You actually admitted that you're not a Cubs fan.
I'm not a Cubs fan. No, I'm a Sox fan. If you got to be in Chicago, I go South Side. South Side.
Next week on Bridging Civil Tension.
Where
is Ken Jones?
Cubs versus Sox. But yeah, so absolutely. Happy birthday, Ted. I didn't even know it was your birthday, but happy birthday, buddy.
Birthday, Ted.
Nice. Lisa's shouting out there, right? Phil's mic is something. Hold on.
Is muted?
You may need to get closer. Let's see. I'm getting something from the producer's booth. Doesn't sound like it's on. Let me go see if it's on.
Oh,
You're good. Just stay there. We're good. Keep talking.
I have no snare in my headphones.
Oh, you are.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
There you go.
All those people out in Radio Land.
You were on. You got that mellow, soft voice.
Sexual chocolate.
That's it. That's it. That's right, Tom. Go Sox. I hear you. So what the amazing thing was no riots in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Sweet. Thank you, Tom.
However, this Portland.
This has always been a dream of mine.
Where doing the kid?
Doing the kid.
Dropping it off the
always
bat.
been a dream of mine.
That's it. It keeps just the crown of your head warm. That's all you do. That's all you do.
I've admired this for many years in basketball
Then
camps.
fall off. It's great.
And it's just incredible.
Yeah.
All right, we're here.
So out in Portland, the group that hated Trump,
right?
And so the government out in Portland was like, no, we don't want any help from the government. You leave the National Guard boys at home, all that. We know they're tearing up downtown. Now are still tearing up downtown, and we've realized that the young people out there are fascists and are just continuing to tear up Portland, breaking windows. I think they went to the Democratic office and burned it down or something.
ICE building as well.
Yeah.
Assaulted police officers.
Yeah.
So I made the post this morning, and I was talking to one of the guys that we've coached with in the past, and was talking about how it looks like it's just on that side anything to incite chaos, even if it's for conflicting beliefs or reasons. So you write it about this one, you write it about this one, you write it about this one. Like, it's a dangerous game.
Big dangerous game.
Because they're not really in any type of structure. Let's see, the scientists made a monster.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So he's saying that I don't think Antifa hates Trump specifically. They just hate democracy and capitalism and anything about Western culture. And as I'm watching some of the footage of it,
right.
There doesn't seem to be anybody over 33. They look pretty young.
Skinny jeans.
They look all black with their little umbrellas and stuff, and they look pretty young.
Black clothes.
Yes. All black outfits. I apologize. But yes. So interesting, right? So the funny thing is, they go crazy on inauguration, and they tear the town up even more. I don't understand. Right now, here's what happens. It's a blurb on the news,
right?
Because why?
Everyone's focused on the inauguration.
Yeah, right.
At the same time, you do have something serious needs to be covered and brought attention to.
Yeah,
I don't understand the message when they said, F Biden. We don't want Biden. We want revenge for police murders. Did Biden say that he's not trying to? It's day one. Like what?
Yeah. Well, he hadn't even got to the office.
Right, I'm not even in the office yet. Like,
I'm still partying. We're dancing. We're having a good time. We're watching fireworks.
I don't clock in until tomorrow.
Right. It's they've got an agenda. That's for sure. Now, the brown shirts of the 21st century. I don't think they work for UPS. I don't know what the brown shirts are.
I know it happens with brown pants, but
yeah, right. Get my brown pants. But I mean, these guys, right? Then they've arrested a few of them. 8.
It said on one part it said there was 150 people who were scuffling. I don't know how you scuffle with a police officer, but scuffling with police officers, and 8 were arrested.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, I'm looking at the New York Post. So I don't know if that's a tabloid or I don't know if it's a real paper. This is what I'm looking at. The interesting thing, it says it wasn't only Portland that experienced inauguration day rioting. In Seattle, hundreds of Antifa shut down traffic in downtown as they trashed roads and started street fires. They smashed up numerous businesses, and the William Kenzo Nakamura courthouse. They assaulted a citizen on the street. Like their black-clad brethren in Portland, they used umbrellas to shield one another. Around 7 p.m., they marched to Seattle's iconic Pike Place Market, where they proceeded to vandalize and loot the original Starbucks, popular tourist attraction. Police only managed to arrest 3 suspects. So, of all of this,
you got 11 total?
You got 11.
Hundreds.
2 cities.
Hundreds.
All gathered up.
2 cities. And the good news is,
yeah,
we've apprehended 11.
Right. Yeah, brown shirts. What do you say? Thanks, Tom. He says, Sturma, but I don't know. You got it.
2 syllables. No.
Strumab telling. I don't know. I'm
Thomas, help us out.
That's right. Does anyone remember when they actually set up in Portland? Well, yeah, they set up in Portland. When was it? Like June or something? June, July?
June, July.
I want to say.
And that was the first article that I found.
Right.
So I made the post, and a buddy of mine from high school, he said, this is what the actual far left looks like. We have this in Denver too. Anarchists and a big group of communists marched on Wednesday, burning American flags and being destructive. People like to conflate anything on the left as murderous Antifa and BLM, when in reality there are dozens of different groups on the left. This group is so extreme they have zero voice and representation in America. They have no plan either besides tear it all down. While I hate destruction, it is a helpful reminder of what the far left actually looks like. AOC and Bernie are centrist, and Biden is center right. So he's letting it know that there's further left.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Way further left.
Sure.
That just seems to have that Joker mentality of just let it all
burn it down, bring it down, and I'm not sure what I guess I don't know what this means to them, what they're doing, and what it actually does, right?
So Sturm telling is the enforcers for Hitler.
Oh, okay. They were the enforcers.
Thank you, Thomas.
Created in 1930. Thank you, Thomas. Excellent.
Like Thomas.
He's going to be on next week, actually.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited to have you
on. He'll be here in studio with us. I don't understand how rioting gets the point across that things need to change. What I saw of those demonstrations, they were destroying innocent people's property, not causing problems with people they actually have a problem with. Right. But it goes to show poor behavior that isn't addressed. We said it last week, right? If you don't address it, you bless it.
Right.
And poor behavior that goes unaddressed, certainly you start getting away with more, or you push the boundary even further, right? And in America, it's always been that way. You have 1/3 of the people who will do something like what's happening. They stand firm in this. You have 1/3 of the people who will stand up against them and go, wait a minute, this isn't right. And 1/3 will go, it'll go away. Let me close my blinds.
Yeah. If I do this,
right,
it'll be fine.
And it'll go away. Right. So the interesting thing is, to me, is that that's what you're seeing. We had 1/3. These are the people that are causing the problem, blowing up Portland, and it's a state. The United States government, the federal government, can't send in troops or cannot send in the National Guard without the governor of the state saying, we'll take your help. Right now, the mayor of Portland or Seattle, one of those two, was off. Hey, they're just in that little place till they started marching up her street and knocking on her door. Then she's like, police, we're going to need you here, right? So the interesting thing is, with a lot of the behaviors in America, with a lot of the way our history has been, it's been just that.
Right.
And when 1/3 is silent, and that silence goes, let me just put my shades down and it'll go away.
Right.
That's why we've got, the attitudes and things that we've got in America.
So
if that makes sense.
It does. Then my question is, if we understand that the behavior that's allowed, right? The behavior that's allowed continues to be happening, right? Whatever you don't address, you bless.
That's right.
For us to really only stand out against rioting versus a lot of other topics that we all know, hey, these people are speaking out about this is happening. We're not going to really address it. We're going to pretend like it's just going to be fine if we just close our eyes and turn our backs on it. And we're seeing that over hundreds of years, this has not changed.
Right. And here's why. It is regional. Hell, I ain't never been to Portland. Hey, you keep it out in Portland. Hell, I ain't never been in the South. You keep it in the South. You know what I'm saying? Right. So with what's happened is the United States is so big that unless it's happening here in Wonder Lake or McHenry, I ain't got to pay attention to it. Right. We've talked about that when we first started this, right?
Right.
It's like I live in my little euphoria.
That's a Southern problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted says if you have a problem with police, take a stand against the police, hold the police accountable, address your problem, don't make more problems. And Lisa says, hey, left, right, what does it matter? An a-hole who harms is an a-hole who harms. Right. So I don't think she'd be an armhole.
Yeah. I thought. And I guess with what Ted is saying, obviously if you have a problem with the police, but if you're not allowed to stand silently, if you're not allowed to kneel, if you're not allowed to find any way of voicing yourself without the entire country saying that we back the blue, only to fight the blue 2 and 3 months later, you have to start being able to allow people to voice themselves in a nonviolent way.
Yeah.
And it be understood that there are worse paths for someone to take than just to kneel.
I mean, Tim Santos, Bullseye, and we've kind of said that. Hey, if you got an RRD in front of your name, I don't like you because you have an RRD.
I promise you, and that's it.
and you can see that with the posts on social media and things like that.
It's been worse than Cops and Sox and Cubs.
It is
worse than Packers and Bears.
It's just
you could be a
ridiculous.
Packers fan, you could be a Sox fan, but if you have an alternative letter in front of your name,
and let's just be honest, Tim, we know that your Green Bay Packers are still in the playoffs.
So, really, that's 2 today. The Sox thing, and now you're doing the Packers.
Hey, man, it's true. I mean, the Bears are just this much better than the Lions.
I don't watch baseball or football, so I don't.
If I go to the game, Lisa says that I just read an article. Thanks, Lisa. No, I just read an article that Thursday morning the National Guard was kicked out of the federal buildings and sent to sleep parking garages since they were no longer needed. Things like that will cause states to not send theirs out to help. And that's a. They did. I read that as well, but I don't know the whole story. So the National Guard who went
sleep in parking garages.
Yeah. So the National Guard who were out for the inauguration to help with the policing, who were sworn in as deputies,
right?
They're still hanging around. So when they needed to take a nap or something, they were doing it in the Capitol building,
right?
And the people inside the Capitol building then kicked them out and said, you can't be in here anymore. You need to go. You can go rest out in the parking garage. It's fine.
In the cold parking.
Yeah. Now here's the interesting thing. Most of the National Guards are people who look like Pete and I and are, accountants, and weekend warriors, and, so
still appreciated.
Yeah.
Still appreciated.
Yeah, go Chiefs. You got it. A riot is the voice of the unheard. Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. This is so true. It's so true. It's you hit that boiling point, and then it boils over.
We talked about that. If I'm not allowed to voice myself this way, this way,
Yep.
this way, this way, or this way, I'm going to find another way to voice myself.
Pam Ann says they were their cafeteria floor of the Capitol building. There you go. That's where they were hanging out. So,
that's where we put our National Guard.
Yeah. So Tom says our disease in the U.S. We are facing is people not wanting to take responsibility over bettering their lives. They will play victim to the chaos and then want public policy to override their personal responsibility they have to face. It's much more a problem of not facing demons or expecting government to fix our problems. Yeah, Phil just did the Kermit the Frog. Simply, that's none of my business. Absolutely.
I think in some cases, Tom, I can see it. I think in other situations, it's more convenient to pretend like the problem isn't there.
Yep.
But at the same time, if people from all sorts of walks of life, all sorts of territories are all seeing the same thing, at some point, you might want to take it serious.
Well, and it goes back to it goes back to, what are you willing to do about fixing you? Right? I'm so caught up on listen, a dear friend of mine watches, and thanks for tuning in. And he and I had almost a week-long argument. And he couldn't, we're on the same team, but he couldn't see that. He's so enraged. Right. And he doesn't understand my position as a business owner, and so he keeps bombarding me with all this stuff. And I'm like, whose mind are you trying to change?
Right.
I'm just trying to give you all the right information. I love you for that, but you don't have to. I'm good. And that's what this show is meant to do, is irritate some people, grab some listeners, and help people think.
Get a different perspective.
Right? Get a different perspective. So, the idea is, if you have an R in front of your name, you spend all of your time trying and getting so upset trying to change a D's mind, and vice versa. Instead of going, maybe there's something wrong with me. Let me fix me. Right? So here's the deal. And I'm not afraid to say this, and Pete and I talked about this morning. Through this entire inauguration, it was a beautiful ceremony. It was great. I found myself going, oh, yeah, bring out another girl. Yeah, bring out another minority. Just parade them in front of us.
Right.
That's what I had going on in my head. And then I go, yeah, that's the problem. This should not surprise you. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable with it. Right? But I didn't go out on social media like, oh, look at them parading these goddamn women around. You know what I mean? The only reason that she's the vice president is she's a woman. I didn't go out there and spew my idiocracy.
Right.
What I did is I had to have a mental conversation in my own head, Phil, and go, "What? That's the problem. Why should it even be alerting me? Going, look at all these women. Look at all these African Americans. I shouldn't, right?
I love your hillbilly voices.
I should not be saying that in my head.
Right.
I should be looking at this, going, God, that girl with that poem. That's incredible.
She was amazing.
Incredible.
All right, 22 years old.
Yeah, incredible.
I went up there and rocked it.
Poised, just like boom.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that's the problem that we face. The riots aren't because I'm mad at me. I'm trying to show you and teach you a lesson instead of going, maybe I need to work on me.
Right. I could see it.
I
just know that the riots weren't a first choice.
No.
For certain people.
So use the media to speak against the police and organize peaceful protests to show the police why you have a problem with the police. Educate yourself about the problem. Use facts to prove where the police went wrong. Violence to protest against violence doesn't show your protest as helpful. Also, when you protest, keep your prejudices out of the protest. If you go into a protest to fix a problem with the idea the people of what you are protesting are all bad and can't be changed, you don't change any. Yeah, no, right.
Right.
And
similar to the person listening to the people who are protesting, you think they're all bad, you'll never think that you need to change anything about yourself. At some point, people from all over the country are all saying the same thing about the same organization, having the same problem. If I had just the problem, okay, then Ken could say, Phil, there's something to check out. But if this person in Florida, this person in California, this person in New York, this person in Tulsa, this person, and this person's 14, this person's 85, this person, and they've all had the similar, at some point, it isn't just a Phil problem.
Right.
It's a national problem.
Right.
That we keep acting like it is not a national problem.
And that's what I'm saying with these things out in Portland. Just because I live in Illinois, if I tend to ignore them because they're not in my backyard, soon they will be.
Backyard.
Soon they will be. Right? I mean, it's got to be fixed.
We saw that. The protests were kind of comical until they ended up in Chicago.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, whoop, store owners in Crystal Lake have guns on top of the building.
I avoid a question conversation by just responding with "we don't agree" and let it be, and was snapped at when I was racist and approved of hate. Because you didn't want to carry on the conversation. Is that the person was accusing you of that? Is that what it was, Lisa? Tom says, fix yourself first and have people see you improving your life and be in peace with yourself. It should be a come see how well I have been improving and not come hear how your life should be better. Yeah, that's easier said than done, though.
Thomas, you know me. I've spent a lot of times improving myself for a long period of time. However, I'm frequently reminded that the color of my skin, certain people do not care about how much I've improved myself. I'm no longer in 4XL white tees and do-rags and braids. As you can see, I went a different look.
Look good too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But if people don't care about your improvement, they're always going to find a problem.
Yeah, people don't think there's anything wrong with them. It's easier to point out others' faults. Yeah, that's true, Pam.
Fixing yourself has nothing to do with fixing systemic racism. Some problems need the government assistance, not government acceptance. Oh my God, somebody gets it.
Well, I mean, but both, Tim. You
Fix
do
yourself, absolutely.
Right.
But
right.
Again,
but the problem with that is, if you sit around waiting for the government to do something, how well has that worked?
But who's saying that we're sitting around waiting? No one's sitting around waiting. No one's just saying like, well, the government has a problem with black people. I'm just going to sit here till things change. Like, no, people are actively, but it's just at the same time, if you're seeing when I'm trying to voice myself in a way that's not violent, not a riot, we're silenced. Silenced. If this person speaks out, media doesn't play this. If this person writes this, media doesn't play this.
Right.
Shut up and dribble. So at what point?
But fixing yourself has nothing to do with fixing systemic racism.
Because what he's saying, what I just said, I can fix myself all day long. If this group is still allowed to treat these people this way, it doesn't matter what I do for myself. It doesn't matter how many books I read. It doesn't matter how much I study about
No, but if the other people are working on themselves.
Okay.
Right?
If they're working on themselves, but you first have to admit there's a problem before you want to work on yourself. And if everyone's saying there's no problem here, then you have no reason to work on yourself over here. If you're allowed to never be audited or never be investigated or then there's no problem here. So it doesn't matter what happens over here.
Well, and that's why I say, and we're probably saying the same thing. We're just probably saying it in two different ways.
I like Tim. Tim, I like you.
Yeah, well, and I've said that several times that people just don't listen. You got two ears. We've said it here on this show a lot, right? But the and I think you can work on yourself, like this issue out in Portland.
Right. What
can I do to better myself to help end that? Right. There's obviously a problem. Right. So
in that problem,
and like I said, listen, I'm not the only American. I'm not the only white guy who sat there with those thoughts going through my head, said, well, this is weird. We haven't seen this before. This is odd, right?
So what was the quote for Portland? It said,
So-
we don't want
Yeah.
Biden. We want revenge for what? Police murders.
Right. Right.
So this group is saying that this still needs to be changing, but no one wants to hear it when this side says this needs to be taken a look at. Now this group is saying this needs to be taken a look at. At what point do we start to take a look that, hey, this is ruffling feathers all around? It's not just these people anymore.
Well, right. Right. That's what I'm saying.
No one's listening.
But again, it goes back to the regional. It's not my backyard. I ain't got to worry about that right now.
They don't want this to be a Chicago problem.
They don't want it to be. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a problem at
I don't
all.
want this to be a Chicago.
Shouldn't be a problem at all.
It
It's just
shouldn't be.
right. I'm just saying that's the way Americans are. Hey, man, that's out in the Northwest. Let the Northwest handle that, man. You take care of your own. Oh, what? Right. So that's what I'm saying. And until it ends up in my front porch, then it's or it hurts somebody that I know.
But it's the north. That's a Northwest thing, or that's a far west thing. But also when it's like, hey, this is what's happening, and you're told that you need to work on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. So Tom says, hey, in Columbia, you need a minimum of 1 year of training. I think our police problem is we don't have a harder barrier of entry to be an officer of peace. In Chicago, I think you just need 8-week training and you're a cop. Only 8 weeks of training breeds incompetent soldiers for peace. Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that needs to change with the way police officers are chosen and trained. And I mean,
They're
there's
great
a ton.
police officers.
I
just think some certain departments or certain things that is in that system are corrupted.
Oh yeah.
And whether you're a good cop or a bad cop, if the system is corrupted, you can't really be a good cop to your full potential. And that's what I'm saying. There's thousands
Right.
of great police officers. The system allows you to be corrupt.
A really cool show is SWAT. I don't know if you've watched SWAT. And Hondo, he's the main character. He's a brother who was on Criminal Minds. I forget his name. It's a weird name, but good looking cat, right? And he's the head of a SWAT team. He does a lot to try to bridge that community and the police relations. And this last show that I watched was there was a couple of bad cops. They had to arrest the cops, and that's what they said. You know, we worked so hard to move the dial a little that because of these idiots, it's now moved back further.
Right.
Because that trust just isn't there. Right. So it's even if there's a lot of good cops, you're not getting that. Yeah, you'll get the one guy who stops and shoots baskets with the kids down in New Orleans or
Right.
whatever, and then that'll go viral for 2 years, and that's the only good cop you know. But as soon as a bad cop does something, boom, and it doesn't even have to be out in the media.
Right.
I mean, the communities know. I mean, that's just it, right?
That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, Lisa says, yeah, it's because I didn't say they changed my mind. It was all or nothing thing. Yeah, and that again goes back to them not listening, people not listening. And it's okay to disagree with people.
Right.
It's okay to not change my mind. It's not okay not to listen or have a conversation. And that's the way I look at it, right?
That's how I see it.
That's the way I see it.
Especially if I at least came to the conversation with an open mind to listen, to actually hear you out.
Jesus. So Tom says, and that's wrong, Phil. And I can condemn people who subscribe to identity politics. And that is wrong. I don't remember what. So he's saying you're wrong. I don't know. Is he saying you're wrong, or is he saying that's the point? Okay.
Yeah, he was with me.
All right. I agree. It's a national problem. The problem I have with the protest is people say the police are the problem. Don't judge the whole book by its cover. There may be bad police. Yeah, that's kind of what we just said, but not all police are bad. Protests against the police that created a problem, not the whole organization. Right. And again, it goes back to what Tim said. No one's willing to listen. Right.
And Ted, again, and I think we've had this conversation a few times. It's no one saying that all police officers are bad, but at the same time, if we're going to be so quick to say don't group them all, you have to understand that you're talking to an African American who, anytime something is brought up or there's a murder in a different state, I'm reminded of the crime rate in Chicago for something that happened in Georgia. So if we're not going to group them all,
black on black crime,
for anything that happened, constantly reminded that we're all just inherently just
that crime
created to be violent because I'm an African American. So at the same time, I hear you. I think the grouping is terrible. How frequently African Americans are grouped to crime is ridiculous. So I want you to keep that same energy, please, when it comes to black people.
Well, and now, I mean, and now it's moving into Hispanic culture. I mean, in the 80s, Johnny, the blonde hair guy, was the bad guy. Ain't no more. Is black people and Hispanic people
are the only ones capable of committing crimes.
Right. And oddly enough, guess who the bad cop was? African American last night on that show. And an Asian guy.
What?
Yeah.
I trust that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Right. Pete says, and this is a good point. This is a great point. Peter says, if you're part of the system and don't fix yourself, then you are part of the systemic problem. It starts with the individual and then must be continued with follow through by the individual. Revenge is a dish best served cold or with corn. With corn, meaning it never turns out well. So if you're going down that road, you might as well have said, have a side dish that you can enjoy. But that's true, because if you can't fix yourself, right?
And I think there's a lot of people making great strides to show that they're trying to do improvement, whether it's community, personal development, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I'm all for personal development.
Well, see, but again, here we are, and I love everybody tuning in 21.6, the millions of listeners and the people. Listen, I know I'm irritating some of you, and that's okay, right? With the things that I've said, but I'm not afraid to say them, right? And that's what this whole show is about, because I can say, man, as I watched another lady come up and another lady do this, and the first African American, South Asian, whatever else she is. I mean, she's got, she's like Tiger Woods. She's got a lot going on there. Her heritage is what I'm saying, right? I don't know if she can swing a club. I'm just saying that because her heritage, right?
With you.
Is that bad? I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think of who else falls in that category. It's like Jessica Alba, The Rock,
yeah,
where you don't know, you don't know what they.
Right.
I'm with you.
Right. So, which is exciting, but I'm not the only one in America. I may be the only one who said, man, I was sitting there going, here comes another lesbian.
So with that though, I watched how many people were irritated of how many minorities or how many women were brought up in a one-day inauguration, but can't understand that for years watching TV what that feels like.
Right.
Not represented on this channel, not represented on this channel.
Right.
Oh, look, this lead person.
we had Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders.
This lead person doesn't look like me either. Oh, not on this station.
Yeah.
Not on this station.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But if we have a day where it's flipped,
I get it.
It's unsettling.
Therein lies the problem, the systemic problem, right? But again, I recognized it, and I go, man, I can't feel this way. This is ridiculous, right? And as I tell people, it's 2021, get over it, right? And I'm like, get over it, Ken. It's 2021. This is it. You are in the now, and this shouldn't be something that makes you go, oh. And that's just the truth to me. And there are those things that are crazy, right? Tom says, I'm saying when people judge Phil because of his immutable quality of being black is wrong.
I'm with you, Tom.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's absolutely. Tim says, some jobs cannot have quote unquote bad. You wouldn't want to be on a plane with a bad pilot, right? Yep. You're going to want that pilot to be good all of the time. And I would assume someone hired to serve and protect you being good all of the time would be appreciated as well. Yeah. Now,
I got to get Tim like a Starbucks card, bro.
Yeah. Now, but listen.
Tim, write me on Facebook, man.
But listen, you cannot be naive. Humans sin. Humans make mistakes. You are always going to have that.
Right.
You are always going to, it would be great. Here's your badge. Now you walk like Superman. It doesn't happen. You know why? Because I've got to pay rent. You know why? Because I got 3 kids with 2 different moms. You know why? Because of this. And if somebody's like, listen, turn the other way. Here's an envelope. That temptation, and I'm human. Oh, I will turn the other way.
But what Tim's point is, if Tim is saying, okay, I'm going to be a bad pilot, and I realize that my human flaw is bringing down this plane. Well, if they made sure that I have a parachute, whether I fall or not, now the rest of you are going to go down with the plane.
Yeah.
I get to jump with my parachute, and my system is going to make sure that I'm provided for and taken care of.
And
how many times are you cool with that happening?
Well, none. But at the same time, most pilots are drunk anyway.
I understand, but if they were drunk anyway, but if all the pilots got parachutes,
it's a joke. Though my pilots. It's a little joke.
If all the pilots had parachutes and the passengers have to pass away, at some point they'd start looking at the type of pilots they hire. Right.
I think Melissa's saying this to me. Do you think that's a sad way of thinking? Finally, young kids can look and see someone who looks like them and not just playing sports. No, you're absolutely right, and that's what I'm saying. I was caught off guard with my own thoughts.
But you were big enough to admit it, though.
Right, and I'm big enough to share it because that's what this is all about. I mean, it caught me off guard. I've got my iPad streaming it while I'm working. So, I'm helping people as I'm working, but then I'm like, these thoughts going through my mind. I go, I cannot feel. What do you agree? This is crazy, right? It shouldn't even affect me. I should just be like, look at these wonderful people, doing a great job, and everybody did, man, woman, female, black, white. I mean, they did a great job. It was it was a good inauguration.
So imagine the surprise, and I'm saying this with love.
Yeah,
imagine the surprise look on my face for these wonderful people who have worked on themselves, who aren't harming anyone, living in their gift. America still had a problem with them.
Yeah.
So there goes that theory.
Yeah. But that's part of that systemic change that needs to happen. And as Pete says, you need to change yourself because you're part of that system, right? So if I don't grease all the gears in there, it ain't gonna run right. Right.
Especially in the big cogs.
Right. And so I think it's historical. I think it's monumental. But at the same time, there are the people who don't think like me, right? Who are fine with it. But because you have a D in front of your name, I hate you.
I hate your guts.
And because you're right. So this gentleman that I was having a conversation with, he's like, oh, well, all the Democrats are going to be proud of you. And I go, well, I hope so. Like a lot of my family and friends are Democrats. Right. I hope they are proud of me, but try to bust my ass, put on good content and run a station here. And I hope the Republicans are too.
I'm proud of you, Ken.
Right. I mean, so to me, I'm trying to do a job. I've got a platform, and the platform, obviously, and this is a great conversation with everybody out here, right, is hopefully we're getting people to think different. And that systemic change will start because we're having conversations like this
and working through it.
And it's not just race. I mean, it's hate. That's what it is. It's hate. Is there racism without hate? No. And now, if we ended up having a civil war this time, what are you going to walk around with a big D on your chest and I got a big R on mine? Or I don't get it. Never mind. Right? I don't know. Let's see. Lisa says she was going to ask. I was going to ask, how do you determine who will not change? Who is bad? Who won't get changed after days, weeks, years of living, seeing the worst things possible? People are people. When they screw up, there should be consequences regardless. Yeah. Well, that's what we're kind of saying.
Right.
Right. But
there needs to be the same consequences for all people for similar acts.
Yeah. And Ted says, hey, just like all disabled people are lumped into being not as intelligent as others and lazy, plus a leech on society. The issue I have with the statement is a few lazy people and a few people who don't have capacity to be productive doesn't make every disabled person a person who doesn't try to be as productive as possible. You're absolutely right. I had an uncle who had cerebral palsy for, he died when he was 80, so, but he worked with Easter seals and things like that. I mean, absolutely. Tom says people sin in their institution, which causes the sin to corrupt the institution. It's not that the institutions are flawed. It's the narcissistic, egotistical, power-hungry sinners that cause institutions to be corrupted. Again, all begins with the individual. Right. Or because you have a D.
You could also take a look at this. Anyway,
Pete throws in. Or because you have a D in front of your name.
I love Pete.
Poke that bear, brother. It's low-hanging fruit. Melissa says, to me, the inauguration was a great showcasing of the unity we need to be seeing on TV. Not only that, but would give new vision and perspective to people in office, and hopefully that could help change these issues we are having. Kent, it's love. I appreciate the honesty about what you thought about. Everyone is entitled to think how they want, and I'm glad you caught it. I've had moments like that too, when I have thought I shouldn't think this way. Yeah, and you know what? And I talked to my kids about it. I mean, I didn't just hold it in. I was like, "This is cool." And I got daughters, but I was like, "So, this is who I am, and this is what I was thinking, and that's a wrong thought."
Bro, that's so big that you do that, especially bringing it up to your family, though, because you're making sure that no one else under your roof has that same thought process.
Right. Yeah.
And you're putting out fires before they really grow, if they're possibly.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I said, and Mel, you posted earlier this week. I mean, and we talked about it in the green room. I mean, Kamala Harris, every little girl now goes, sweet.
Did you see that picture that Zoe posted?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Little girl watching.
Yeah, what was she, 5, 4 or 5?
5.
Yeah.
But she's saying that it's possible now.
Right. So you just kind of sit there and you're like, okay, yeah,
like I get
let's go.
Something bigger than just my squabbling over D's and R's.
Yeah. Ted, the punishment should fit the crime and promote education of resources available. You're right. But our system is, how do I want to say this? Designed to protect those people. Our system is designed to protect those people. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. The gentleman and George Floyd, he had like 12 instances, 13 instances.
Specifically about race.
That this guy shouldn't have been wearing a badge, shouldn't have been in that position. But whatever, the captain's like, I'll take a chance. He's a good cop.
Right.
I'll take a chance. We're good. Right. And so the system is designed to protect those, I mean, you're taking a look at, take a look at everybody who's in our government sitting there corrupt. We know that there's corruption.
But we don't look at that corruption.
Correct.
We don't investigate that corruption. We'd rather look at Chicago corruption.
Right.
The known governmental or known systemic corruption.
Yep. You can't fix a problem by not teaching people and throwing them back into the same situation after they get out of jail. Well, that's because the system hasn't changed. I mean, hey, and let's be honest, if you wear a badge and you end up in jail, it ain't going to be a fun stay for you. It's not going to be fun.
Pummeled?
Right?
That's the word?
But, and yeah. Shiver me timbers. But, and I want people to know that what's happening in Portland is because you got a bunch of people filled with hate that the powder keg has blown. Right. And if you live in Florida, you can't ignore it because it's on the other side of the country from you. If you live in New York, you can't ignore it because it's hate was happening there.
Yes, absolutely to what you're saying. I think another problem is because we've made our country so black versus white, D's versus R's, that even when another letter or something shows up, we can't say, let's stop that.
Right.
And that's a problem because we've been divided into so many subcategories They were not really unified in anything.
Right. Now, even if the government now steps in, right, and again, this nation is split right down the middle, right? I mean, we'll say shouldn't do that, can't do that, right?
Right.
The other half will say, "Amen." Finally, and if we try to change that system, half the people, again, we just got a new coach. We're all the same players.
Same team.
Half the team ain't playing. Right?
I think I saw this. Remember the Titans.
Yeah. Right. I mean, truthfully,
you know they're not blocking for a blood nickel.
Yeah. And so I think that's huge, and I think we have to understand that it didn't. I mean, there's only one man who changed the world. They crucified him a long time ago.
Right.
That's it. Period. This is a chance. What people are saying is, okay, I don't have to be angry anymore. However,
you could choose to stop being angry at this point.
You could.
It's a halftime. The game is not over.
You could.
We can come back out of the huddle. Right.
So I think, and Tim nails it on the head. Shut up and listen. And then talk it out and figure it out and move forward together. I mean, it's the same thing. We just celebrated last week, Dr. King's birthday, and it was the same thing then. Nobody wanted to listen to him. Get the hoses out.
Right.
What?
They're marching peacefully.
Right.
Let's shoot them. Let's tear gas them. Let's hose them.
Right.
Put dogs on them.
We'll put them in jail.
Sounds familiar.
We told them to stop. They didn't. They resisted arrest.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Right. So, Thomas says the reason people are filled with hate, quote unquote, in Portland is because they ignore that their life is in shambles, and so they have to express their frustration with their lack of being onto others. Well, that's pretty much what hate. I mean, hate is I don't want to look at me, so it's the old crab in a bucket. I feel bad. My life sucks. I'm gonna make yours bad.
Right.
You're gonna suck.
That's a good part of it.
And so I'm going to grab you and bring you back in the bucket with me. And
it also stems from frustration on not being heard, though, man. I'm telling you.
Sure.
You take away a person's voice and allow them to express themselves in a healthy way. I have not seen historically where it goes well. So on all these topics where people are trying to calmly express, this is what a day in my shoes looks like. We keep downplaying it.
Yep.
You keep saying the way that you peacefully said this was wrong. The way you peacefully did that was wrong. I didn't like the way you peacefully did this over here. Okay. You're taking away a lot of the peaceful options and taking away a person's voice, the way to express themselves, and coming to you sincerely as a fellow being. You're giving them no choice in some situations.
Well, sure. And you've got to be, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
You're going to find a way to squeak, all right.
Right.
Just don't get mad when you don't like the noise.
But I'll start following this a little bit better, right? Is that has anyone in leadership tried to go, hey, people who are tearing up Portland, who's your leader? I want to sit down with them,
right,
and see what we can do to calm this down and stop ruining my city, stop ruining my state, stop ruining my country. Right? Has anybody taken the time to do that? No. Right? You can't. I mean, send that in. Who are you? This one?
Yeah.
One problem I have with it's black against white is a black person in the upper class will be treated differently than a black man who is poor. A white person who is in the upper class will be treated differently than someone in the lower class by the police. The difference is we don't put as much emphasis on it in the media. Well, here's what I'll say is stop listening to the media. There's not, and I listen to a lot of different talk shows, both liberal, both conservative, because how can I have a good point of view if I don't? And each side says the mainstream media.
All right.
You're in the media. You're in the media. Either report the truth or don't. Right now, I get it that it's designed to make money, but the truth is, we as Americans shouldn't care what's in the news. to act. We should be able to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to feel it, what's going on. Yes, that is true to some point.
The what?
With the classes, right? That
is it?
To a point, right? I mean, cops. You didn't see them not in the trailer court white trash area, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying you could be rich, black, and
no, I understand. That's why I'm saying to a point, right? Because it doesn't. Is when I roll up on that Mercedes, it's stolen. That's what I'm saying. I get it.
A car, the Mercedes is stolen. You got to be a dealer. So
that's what I'm saying. And who was it? JR? Is that it?
JR.
Right. I mean, he works for the school.
He works for. I mean, like me right. And a higher level executive at Grainger who's an African American, and we're having the same conversations of the same treatment. Right. And another individual who works in the corporate world in the stock level and makes well into six figures, and he's that, and me and him are having the same treatment. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we're treated differently, poor black versus rich black. If he's having the same conversations as my Elgin friends.
Yeah, but you see that though too, that, hey, you got, a 55-year-old, African-American, he's got the overcoat and, he gets pulled over. He's nervous because what happens, but a lot of times police will not drag him out. You get a 30-year-old who's done well by themselves because they're an IT person and created an app. That person doesn't matter what class they're in.
A 65-year-old uncle who was just getting out of chemo and had his arm broken in Euless, Texas, because he shouldn't have been there. They thought he was a troublemaker, even though he had a membership at that gym for 25 years. He's 65 and frail. Was he a threat? No, but he has arm broken in 2 places. So he's having the same conversations as my 20-year-old cousins who are on the street.
Sure.
So that's where I struggle with having so many experiences and having relatives who are rich and friends who are rich African-American and ones who are poor and African-Americans. And I'm not seeing that big of a gap in the way that we're treated. So to keep pushing on the social class thing based off person with hundreds of relatives for research, it's tough.
Sure.
It's a tough sell. I'm not saying that, Sean Ramsey's not telling me that his life is a cakewalk because he's over at this company.
Right.
It's not what I'm experiencing.
If they take away your agency to live peacefully, they've been tyrannical. Yeah. I see the biggest issue is we have a social class prejudice issue too that needs to be addressed. We still are created equal and should be treated as such all the way around. Well, that's why. Yeah, I mean, the United States was and always has, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds. Right. I mean, it's been run by families with money. Kennedys. I mean, simple as that, right? That's it has since day one. So yeah, you will always have that class separation.
Just thinking about.
I mean, there was that class separation on Gilligan's Island, for crying out loud.
There was.
I
think the story that comes to my mind, I went to a country club in the area for an event, a golf outing, dressed like everyone else at the golf outing. Uh-huh. And when I arrived there, they thought I was delivery. So even though delivery doesn't dress in a button up or in dress pants, I'm delivery. In a high class place, dressed like a high class person, right along other high class people, but only one of us is questioned about being delivery.
That's funny.
And so I'm sitting here and I recognize the guy has a hat with the logo of the company who's running the thing, and they don't know that I know that person.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm actually here for it. And I named the guy. And he's like, the one that's on your hat, I know him. And then you watch his face change up. Right away, sir. But it doesn't matter.
Sir, all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, I'm sir, so boy. But it doesn't matter where you go. Yeah. What class you're in, as long as your skin is brown.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a gap.
And until
they say the same word, they just say it nicer.
Listen, and it'll continue to go until people, and I'm not saying that I'm great. I still got a long way to go, right? But until people can sit there and go, why was I thinking like that? That's not right. And then be able to talk about it to the millions of people that are listening right now, right? And I do. And listen, a show will come on again. And I love the show Blackish. I think it's funny, right? But if that was named anything else, well, not even. It doesn't bother me that there's no white people on it.
Right.
It except the goofy neighbor, right? It doesn't bother me, and the weird people that he works with, right? But it doesn't bother me, right? Same thing with the Huxtables, the Cosby Show years ago didn't bother me. But all of a sudden, I'm like, and you have to force yourself to think differently. You have to force yourself to be open-minded. You have to force yourself to listen to the words that are coming out. I mean, this 22-year-old, I was like, damn,
she brought it,
man,
she brought
right?
it.
And you just, so a lot of that is the system will change when you change. You can't force the system to change, right? Yes, it takes everybody, and yes, the government has to do its piece. Has to finally step up and say, okay, right? And guess what? We have to be on the same side. And no matter what happens, I've listened to people talk and whatnot, and he's going to give reparations or whatever. Who cares? Get on board and just be like, okay.
The team wins.
Right. We win. Right? I mean, Jed Bushler's got 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got at least 3 rings. Right. And he sat at the end of the bench. Right? Charles Barkley ain't got none. Sorry, Chet. So, as we're wrapping this thing up, and thank you everybody for your great input. Next week we're going to talk a little bit about mentorship.
Right.
Okay. On what it means to be a man in America today. What it means to be now. This isn't a sexist thing.
Right.
We're just going to have Thomas, who does a lot of mentoring, and he's in his 20s. You do a ton of mentoring.
Right.
And you're in your 30s. I do a ton of mentoring. I'm in my 50s. But what it means to be a man in America today is a lot different than perhaps it was back in 1980 when I was being mentored. Right. So we're going to have a great conversation about that. Thomas will be here. We're excited about that. But here's my challenge to everybody who's listening out there. And thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out and getting caught in the net. My challenge to you is don't let this conversation stop here when we go off the air. Push forward with this conversation in your own mind, in your own home. These are all great things, and I appreciate all the input. But if you let it die once we sign off, then nothing has happened.
Right. It was entertainment.
Continue to talk. Continue to talk to yourself. Try to figure out where it is that you can help change this system and start acting that.
Right.
And guess what? What's the hate and things that are happening out west in Portland and Seattle, coming soon to a neighborhood near you.
Act as if.
All right. So y'all better pay attention and start making a little bit of noise and asking some people to help heal that area. And it starts with you. I think the government has to play their piece as well. And it's not necessarily going in there with force. It's just where I stand. So, any last words you got?
That's it, man. I appreciate everyone, like you said, for the messages and the commentary. We appreciate you guys watching and tuning in and joining us with your thoughts and feedback every week. We love you.
Yep.
And,
that's it. So for all of us here at 216 The Net, this is Bridging Civil Tension. He's Phil Wallace. Check him out on Facebook. Learn to Sew. Lelos.
Phil Wallace, the Bridge community.
Yep, Bridge community. Join that.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll enjoy it. We'll see you next week. For all of us here at 216 the Net, tune in today 3:30 for Ask a Bookkeeper. Great show. If you own a small business, you can actually ask a bookkeeper questions. And then later tonight at 6:30, guess what? It's Whining with Dawn. Fun show where, well, ladies got to make fun of men. I got picked on last week. It was a good show. All right. For all of us here at 216 the Net, have a wonderful day. I got all these end streams. Hey!